is Rescator, and what is his or her role in this?
Well, his name is found inside the code of the malware that was installed on the target POS system. So we know that he had something to do with the creation of this malware. But I think of him essentially as a farmer. Think of it like this. A farmer plants a crop, waits for it to grow, harvests it, and then takes that crop to market. And that's exactly what has happened here.
Michael, paint the world, the underworld that you described in your article of carters and this place in Ukraine where they apparently have conventions where a bunch of people get together and talk about how to use credit card information. They sell it, they buy it. Describe this place to me.
So one of the things we know is that the cyber underground is becoming an increasingly well-segmented and machine that really does operate quite smoothly. The Secret Service describes a lot of these capers in the kind of way that comparable to the Ocean's 11 movie. Basically, it's several guys who have different kinds of skills that will get together and do various parts of the hack. But you can basically hire out or find somebody who's really good at any piece of this that you need. Once they collect the cards, they've got a really efficient way of selling them. You can go on to some of the best sites, really do work like Amazon.com. You can go onto the site, you sign in with a password, which you have to get from the site's creator or because you're a client or known to somebody. Once you're in there, you can search cards by the card brand. You can search it by the expiration date. You can search it by zip code so that if you're buying these cards to commit fraud, you can do it in the same area where the cards are issued so that they don't trigger fraud engines. They make it really easy to do. Then you just put your basket of your stolen cards into an electronic checkout basket, and you pay for it using Bitcoin or Western Union or whatever currency that they want to take. It's all really pretty automated.
Yeah, and Mark, let me ask you too. Too bad target systems security weren't so easy to use as the hackers. But Mark, I thought one of the really interesting things about Michael's story was the notion that this wasn't just a bunch of guys in a dark room on computers in Eastern Europe, but there was physical breaches of security. This was a very complex operation with some real sort of spy-like characteristics and involved fake ID badges and people walking into insecure buildings.
Yeah, physical security is most important. But what troubles me most about this is think of it like this: Target paid $1.6 million for a smoke alarm, and when it went off, they just took the battery out without seeing if there was any smoke in the room.
Now, Mark, describe the way the black market works. As I understand it, credit card numbers sell for anywhere from $600 to $200. Who buys those? How quickly can they use them before they're detected?
Certainly. Well, the analogy that I used earlier, I think, is pretty spot on. The individuals in Russia are making their money by selling this stolen information, and they need to make it convenient. So they put together this Amazon.com for this data, and it's a no-frills web page, but it does allow hackers to download very specific or to purchase very specific credit card information, even coming back to a certain billing zip code, or they can even purchase specific cards with specific 4 digits, the final 4 digits on a card in order to circumvent human security at the checkout. If you've ever purchased a TV at the checkout, the cashier will often ask you for the card. They'll check the expiration date. They'll check the last 4 digits to make sure that it matches up with the information stored on the magnetic stripe. So these are very sophisticated customers of Rescator.
Michael, let me ask you, in your story, which is really amazing, nice work and greatly detailed, I wonder, though, about prosecution and what happens. I mean, can they actually get their hands on these guys? Is there cooperation, cross-border cooperation here? Has that changed with the situation with Russia and Ukraine and so on?
The short answer is no. There are gangs that have been operating for years in Russia and elsewhere in Eastern Europe. There was an indictment last year in New Jersey that focused on a gang like this one that had been responsible for stealing 160 million credit cards at least from everyone from JetBlue to Citibank to it goes all the way back to the Heartland Payment Systems hack, which was in 2008 and is a pretty storied hack. Those guys have been operating for years, basically untouched in Russia. U.S. law enforcement, it's not like they haven't tried to do something, but it really depends. I talked to a former FBI agent on this just the other day, and he's like, it really depends on the cooperation we get from the home country. We can't do anything if Russia isn't, we can give them a name, we can give them a file, but if they're not going to respond, we can't do anything to lay hands on these guys. The one thing that they have tried, and they've been some recent success on this, is they try and lure these guys out to a different country. So, for example, they'll lure people out to do a business deal or have a party in the Netherlands and Amsterdam on the pretext that they're another bad guy. If those guys actually get on a plane and fly to one of these countries where they have better law enforcement cooperation, then they can actually lay hands on them.